I never expected to fall in love with my roommate. That sounds like the opening line of a bad romance novel, doesn't it? But here's the thing. When Maya moved in 6 months ago, she had a boyfriend. A serious boyfriend. The kind who left his toothbrush in our bathroom and had his own drawer in her dresser. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I locked my feelings down tight, smiled politely when he came over, and pretended my heart didn't skip every time she laughed at one of my jokes instead of his. His name was Derek. He was fine, objectively handsome in that generic way, good job in finance, always wore cologne that cost more than my rent. Maya seemed happy enough with him, or at least that's what I told myself during those long nights when I could hear them talking through the thin walls of our apartment, their voices rising and falling like waves I couldn't quite make out. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. It was a Thursday night in late October when everything changed. I remember because I'd just gotten home from a double shift at the hospital where I work as a nurse, and my feet were absolutely killing me. The apartment was dark except for the blue glow of the TV in the living room, which was weird because Maya usually went to bed early on weeknights. She's a graphic designer and keeps pretty regular hours, unlike my chaotic schedule. I found her curled up on the couch, still in her work clothes, mascara smudged under her eyes. The TV was playing some mindless reality show, but she wasn't really watching it. She was just staring through it, her arms wrapped around one of our throw pillows like it was the only thing keeping her together. "Hey," I said softly, dropping my bag by the door. "You okay?" She looked up at me and I saw it immediately. That hollow look people get when something inside them has just broken. I'd seen it 1,000 times in the hospital, but never on Maya's face. Never on the girl who sang off-key in the shower and left little post-it notes with terrible puns on the fridge and made the worst coffee I'd ever tasted, but somehow made me drink it anyway because she was so proud when she remembered I took it black. "Derek and I broke up," she said. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tremor underneath, like ice cracking on a frozen lake. I sat down next to her, careful to leave space between us. "What happened?" She laughed, but it was bitter. "He's been sleeping with someone from his office for 3 months. 3 months, and I had no idea. I feel so stupid." "You're not stupid," I said immediately. "He's an asshole. I loved him." She said it like a confession, like she was admitting to something shameful. "I really thought we were going to get married. He talked about it, you know? Kids and a house in the suburbs and all of it, and the whole time he was fucking someone else. I wanted to reach out and touch her, to pull her into my arms and tell her she deserved so much better. But I didn't. Because what right did I have? I was her roommate, her friend. Just because I lay awake at night imagining what it would feel like to kiss her didn't mean I got to cross that line when she was vulnerable. So instead I said, "Do you want ice cream? Wine? I can order pizza. Or I can sit here quietly and we can watch whatever garbage is on TV until we both pass out." She smiled a little at that. "All of the above? Done." We ordered pizza. We opened a bottle of cheap wine that had been sitting in our cupboard since someone brought it to a housewarming party we threw when Maya first moved in. We ate and drank and watched 3 episodes of a baking competition show, and slowly the tension in her shoulders started to ease. She laughed at one point when a contestant's cake collapsed spectacularly, and the sound made my chest ache. Around midnight, she stood up and stretched. "I should go to bed. Thanks for this. For being here." "Any time," I said, and I meant it. She hesitated in the doorway to the hallway, looking back at me. "You're a really good friend, you know that?" "Friend? Right. That's what I was." "Get some sleep," I told her. I stayed up for another hour, cleaning up the pizza boxes and wine glasses, trying not to think about how much I wanted to be more than her friend. Trying not to imagine what it would be like to be the person she came home to, the person whose arms she sought out for comfort instead of just companionship. When I finally crawled into my own bed, I lay there in the dark, listening to the sounds of the apartment settling around me. I could hear Maya moving around in her room next door, the soft pad of her feet on the carpet, the creak of her bed frame. Then I heard something else. A sound I'd never heard from her before. She was crying. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet, broken sounds that seemed to seep through the walls and wrap around my heart like thorns. I stared at the ceiling, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to go to her, but I didn't know if that's what she wanted. Maybe she needed to be alone. Maybe she'd be embarrassed if she knew I could hear her. The crying went on for what felt like hours, but was probably only 15 or 20 minutes. Then silence. I thought she'd fallen asleep. I was wrong. My bedroom door opened so quietly I almost didn't hear it. I sat up, my heart suddenly pounding, and saw Maya's silhouette in the doorway. She was wearing an oversized t-shirt that hung to her thighs, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Can I come in?" she whispered. "Of course." I pulled back the covers without thinking, making room. She crossed the room and climbed into my bed, and suddenly she was right there next to me, so close I could smell her shampoo, something floral and sweet that I'd become intimately familiar with over the past 6 months. She didn't say anything. She just curled up on her side, facing me, her knees drawn up toward her chest. I lay back down, acutely aware of every point where our bodies were almost touching but weren't quite. The mattress dipped slightly under her weight, creating a gravity between us that I had to actively resist. "I didn't want to be alone," she said finally. "Is this okay?" "Yeah," I managed. "It's okay." We lay there in the darkness, and I tried to keep my breathing steady, tried not to think about how badly I wanted to reach out and touch her. Her hand was resting on the pillow between us, so close to mine. I could see the outline of her face in the dim light filtering through my curtains, the curve of her cheek, the way her eyelashes cast tiny shadows. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. Do you think I'm unlovable?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "What? No, Maya, no. You're one of the most lovable people I've ever met. Then why wasn't I enough for him?" I could hear the tears in her voice again, and something inside me cracked open. "Because he's an idiot who doesn't deserve you. This isn't about you not being enough. He's the one who wasn't enough. He's the one who failed." She was quiet for a moment. Then she moved closer, closing the distance between us. Her forehead pressed against my shoulder, and I felt her breath warm against my collarbone through my thin sleep shirt. "Thank you," she whispered. I lifted my arm slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, and wrapped it around her shoulders. She melted into me, her body fitting against mine like we'd done this 1,000 times before. Like this was where she'd always belonged. My heart was racing so fast I was sure she could feel it. This was more intimate than anything we'd ever shared, and I knew I was in dangerous territory. She was heartbroken and vulnerable, and I was the worst kind of person for lying here wanting more than I should. But I couldn't make myself let go. "Is this okay?" I asked, echoing her earlier question. "More than okay," she murmured. "You're warm." We fell silent again, but this time it felt different, charged, like the air before a thunderstorm. I could feel every breath she took, the rise and fall of her chest against my side. Her hand had somehow ended up resting on my stomach, casual and trusting, and I was hyper-aware of the weight of it, the heat of her palm through my shirt. Time seemed to stretch and compress. I had no idea if we'd been lying there for 5 minutes or an hour. All I knew was that I never wanted this moment to end, even though I knew it had to. Even though I knew that in the morning, she'd probably be embarrassed and things would be awkward, and we'd have to pretend this never happened. "I always feel safe with you," Maya said suddenly. "Did you know that?" "From the first day I moved in, I just felt safe." "I'm glad," I said softly. "Derek never made me feel like this." She shifted slightly, tilting her head up so she could see my face. We were so close now that I could count her eyelashes if I wanted to. "He made me feel a lot of things, excited and frustrated and sometimes anxious, but never just safe, never like I could completely let my guard down." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just held her a little tighter. "Can I tell you something?" she asked. "Always." I think I knew it wasn't right with him, deep down. I think I knew for a while. She paused, and I felt her hand curl into the fabric of my shirt. There was this moment, maybe a month ago. We were all having dinner together, remember? You made that pasta dish, and Derek was talking about some deal at work, and I just remember looking across the table at you and thinking how much more I enjoyed talking to you than to him. How much easier it was. How much more like home it felt. My breath caught. I didn't dare move. Didn't dare hope she was saying what I thought she might be saying. And then I felt so guilty, she continued, because I had a boyfriend and I wasn't supposed to be thinking about my roommate that way. I wasn't supposed to notice how your eyes crinkle when you smile, or how you always save me the last cookie, or how you remember that I like my tea with honey even though you think it's weird. It is weird, I said automatically, and she laughed, the sound vibrating through both of us. See? You make me laugh even when I'm trying to have a serious moment. Sorry. Continue with your serious moment. She took a deep breath. I'm trying to tell you that this thing with Derek ending, it hurts. It really hurts. But maybe not for the reasons I thought it would. Maybe it hurts because I wasted 6 months on someone who wasn't right for me when I could have been... She trailed off. Could have been what? I prompted, my voice barely above a whisper. She lifted her head from my shoulder and looked at me directly. In the dim light, her eyes were dark and unreadable, but there was something in her expression that made my pulse race. Could have been brave enough to admit that I have feelings for you, she said. The world seemed to stop spinning. I stared at her, sure I must have misheard. What? I have feelings for you, she repeated, stronger this time. I think I have for a while. I just didn't let myself acknowledge it because it was scary and complicated and I was already with Derek. But lying here with you right now, I can't pretend anymore. I don't want to pretend anymore. Maya, I started, but I didn't know how to finish the sentence. There were too many things I wanted to say and they all tried to come out at once. I know the timing is terrible, she said quickly. I literally just broke up with someone today. You probably think I'm rebounding or confused or I don't even know what. And maybe I am. But I also think I've been lying to myself for months and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of not being honest about what I want. What do you want? I asked. She reached up and touched my face, her fingers tracing the line of my jaw with a tenderness that made me shiver. I want to know what it feels like to kiss you. I want to wake up next to you and have it mean something. I want to stop pretending that you're just my roommate when you're so much more than that. I closed my eyes, trying to get my thoughts in order. This was everything I'd wanted, handed to me on a silver platter. But I couldn't shake the worry that she was just hurting and seeking comfort, that tomorrow she'd regret this. I don't want to be a rebound, I said quietly. I don't want to be the person you turn to because you're lonely and hurt and I'm convenient. You're not, she insisted. God, you're so far from that. Do you really not see it? The way I light up when you come home? The way I find excuses to spend time with you? I kept Derek around partly because I was scared of what it meant that I'd rather be with you. I opened my eyes and found her still watching me, her hand still cupped against my cheek. I've had feelings for you since about a week after you moved in, I admitted. When you tried to cook dinner for the first time and nearly set off the smoke alarm, and instead of being embarrassed, you just laughed and ordered Thai food and said we'd try again another day, I looked at you laughing with tears in your eyes from the smoke, and I just knew. You never said anything. You had a boyfriend. I had the wrong person, she corrected. I should have been with you all along. She leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. I'd been wanting this for too long to deny it now. Consequences be damned. When her lips met mine, it was soft and tentative, a question more than a statement. I answered by kissing her back, my hand coming up to tangle in her hair, pulling her closer. She made a small sound in the back of her throat and deepened the kiss, and suddenly there was nothing tentative about it anymore. It felt like coming home. Like every cheesy romance novel metaphor I'd ever rolled my eyes at was suddenly impossibly true. She tasted like wine and possibility, and the way she moved against me made my head spin. We broke apart eventually, both breathing hard. She rested her forehead against mine, and I could feel her smiling. I've wanted to do that for so long, she whispered. Me too. So what happens now? It was a fair question. We just crossed a line we couldn't uncross, and we still had to live together, still had to navigate whatever this was becoming. Now, I said, we take it slow. We figure this out together. No pressure, no expectations. Just us being honest with each other. I can do that. She kissed me again, quick and sweet. But can we also do this? Because I really like this. I laughed and pulled her back into my arms. Yeah, we can definitely do this. She settled against me with a contented sigh, her head on my chest, our legs tangled together. It felt natural, like we'd been sleeping this way for years instead of minutes. Stay with me tonight? I asked. I wasn't planning on leaving. We lay there in the comfortable darkness, and I felt something shift in the universe, some fundamental realignment of my world. Tomorrow would bring questions and complications and conversations we'd need to have. But tonight, I had Maya in my arms, and she wanted to be there, and that was enough. Hey, she murmured sleepily. Yeah? Thank you for being patient with me, for waiting until I figured my shit out. I pressed a kiss to the top of her head. You're worth waiting for. She tilted her face up and kissed me again, longer this time, her hand sliding up to cup the back of my neck. When we finally pulled apart, we were both smiling like idiots. Get some sleep, I told her. We can figure out the rest tomorrow. Together, she said. Together, I agreed. And as I held her while she drifted off to sleep, I thought about how sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never saw coming. How sometimes love sneaks up on you disguised as friendship, and you don't realize what you have until it's crawling into your bed in the middle of the night, asking if it's okay to stay. I didn't know what the future held for us. I didn't know if this would last a week or a month or the rest of our lives. But I knew that right now, in this moment, with Maya warm and safe in my arms, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that was everything.